Max never expected to be left alone at his best friend's house, not like this. He had stayed over countless times before, but tonight was different. The whole day had been strange. There was a heaviness in the air that he couldn't quite explain. His friend Alex had invited him to hang out after school, but then something came up. His mom had called him to help with some errands, and suddenly, Max was alone in the house, waiting for Alex to return. He sat on the couch, flipping through channels on the TV, but not really watching. The house was quiet, almost too quiet. It was a big place, with high ceilings and large windows that let the light spill in. But at night it felt empty, like the walls were closing in on him. He knew Alex's family well, but tonight the silence felt different, almost suffocating. Max heard footsteps in the hallway and he looked up. It was Alex's mom, Elaine. She was a kind woman, always warm and welcoming. She had the kind of smile that made you feel at home, like everything would be okay. But tonight her smile was different. It was more distant. Her eyes seemed to have a quiet sadness in them, as though she was carrying a burden no one could see. "Max, can I get you anything?" Elaine asked, her voice soft but steady. "Would you like something to drink? Tea, maybe?" Max hesitated. Sure, tea would be nice. Thanks, Mrs. Simmons." She nodded and walked into the kitchen, leaving Max to sit in the living room, lost in his thoughts. He could hear the clink of cups and the faint hum of the kettle. He glanced at the clock on the wall. It had been an hour since Alex left. His phone buzzed in his pocket, but it was just a text from his mom reminding him to come home before it got too late. Max's thoughts wandered. He had always liked coming to Alex's house. It was a place where he could forget about school and everything else that weighed on him. But tonight, there was something about the way the house felt, something unsettled in the air. Elaine came back into the room with a tray, placing a steaming cup of tea in front of him. She sat down across from him, her movements slow, almost deliberate. "How's everything going with school, Max?" she asked, folding her hands neatly in her lap. It's fine," Max replied, not sure what to say. "Same old stuff." Elaine nodded, her gaze lingering on him for a moment longer than usual. "You know, I've always thought of you as one of the good ones, Max. You're smart, kind-hearted. Alex is lucky to have you as a friend." Max felt a warmth spread through him at her words. He hadn't realized how much her approval meant to him until now. "Thanks, Mrs. Simmons. I think Alex is lucky to have you, too," she smiled faintly. "It's Elaine, Max. Don't call me Mrs. Simmons. It makes me feel old." Max chuckled nervously, but there was something in her tone that made him uneasy. It wasn't the kind of conversation he was used to having with her. Usually she was all smiles and jokes, always lighthearted. But tonight, there was an edge to her voice. Elaine's smile faded slightly as she stared at him for a moment, as though she were looking past him, lost in her thoughts. Finally, she stood up and walked to the window. The moonlight cast long shadows across the room, and the wind outside rustled the leaves in the trees. Max couldn't help but notice how different everything felt tonight. "I'll be back in a minute," Elaine said, her voice distant as she turned toward the hallway. Max sat there, the teacup in his hands, trying to push away the strange feeling that had settled in his chest. It wasn't like he could put his finger on it, just an odd sense of foreboding. He shook his head and took a sip of the tea. It was warm and soothing, but it did nothing to calm the strange tension building inside him. He heard the sound of footsteps again, this time closer. It was Elaine again, but now she was standing at the doorway, looking at him with an expression he hadn't seen before. Her eyes were softer, almost as if she were seeing him in a new light. "Max," she said, her voice quieter now. "You've been a good friend to Alex, I can see that. But sometimes people don't realize what they truly need until they're staring at it." Max frowned, unsure of what she meant. "What do you mean?" Elaine took a step into the room, closing the door behind her. The air in the room felt thicker now, charged with something unspoken. She walked closer, her movements slow but deliberate. "You know, Max," she said softly, her eyes never leaving his. "I've seen you grow up over the years. I've seen the way you care for Alex, how you always look out for him. But sometimes I wonder—" Her voice trailed off for a moment as if she were choosing her words carefully. Max was confused. Wonder what? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she seemed to be lost in thought, staring at the floor as if searching for the right thing to say. When she finally looked back up at him, her expression had softened. Max, she began again, her tone gentle but serious. I've always been there for Alex, always protected him. But tonight is different. Things have changed. Max's heart began to race. There was a strange weight to her words, something he couldn't quite understand. What do you mean, Mrs. Simmons? What's changed? Elaine stepped even closer now, her presence filling the room. Her gaze was intense, her eyes dark with an emotion he couldn't name. She was so close that he could feel the heat radiating from her. I'm not just a mom tonight, Max, she whispered, her voice low and almost like a secret. Max blinked, feeling a knot form in his stomach. He opened his mouth to say something, but the words caught in his throat. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening, but the confusion clouded everything. Elaine's smile was soft, almost sad, as she took another step toward him. You don't have to be afraid, she said quietly, but you need to understand that sometimes we all need to change, to move forward. Max stood up, feeling the need to put space between them. I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered, his voice trembling. Elaine took a deep breath, her eyes never leaving him. I think you do, Max. I think you understand more than you realize. Max felt his heart racing now, a cold sweat forming on the back of his neck. He didn't know what to do or say. The air between them felt electric, but it was not the kind of tension he was used to. This was different. He could feel it. He had to leave. He had to get out of this house. But just as he turned to walk toward the door, Elaine's voice stopped him. Max, she said softly, it's not too late to understand. It's not too late to accept what's happening. Max's mind was spinning. He couldn't stay here any longer. With one last glance at her, he rushed out of the room, his pulse racing. The house felt more like a maze now, the walls closing in on him with every step. He didn't know what was happening, but he knew he had to leave. He needed to get out before it was too late. Max ran through the hallways of the house, his breath quick and shallow. His heart thumped against his chest as he tried to shake off the strange, unsettling feeling that had gripped him ever since Elaine had spoken those strange words. I'm not just a mom tonight. He couldn't make sense of it. What did she mean? What was happening here? Why had everything suddenly felt so different? As he rushed toward the front door, his mind raced, trying to find any explanation for the tension that hung in the air. But the more he thought about it, the more confused he became. There had to be a reason for all this. Max reached the front door and grabbed the handle, his hand shaking slightly. But just as he was about to open it, he heard footsteps behind him. Max, wait! Elaine's voice was soft but firm, calling to him from the hallway. Max froze. His body tensed and his fingers tightened around the door handle. He didn't want to turn around. He wanted to leave. He needed to get out. But something stopped him, something in her voice. He slowly turned to face her. Elaine was standing there, her expression a mixture of concern and something else Max couldn't quite place. She was still wearing the same soft smile, but her eyes were filled with a quiet sadness, almost like she was grieving something. Max, she said again, taking a slow step toward him. Please, just listen to me. Max's chest tightened. What's going on, Mrs. Simmons? I don't understand. Why are you acting like this? Elaine paused for a moment, looking at him with a mixture of sympathy and regret. Max, it's not what you think. I'm not trying to hurt you. I need you to understand something. Max swallowed hard, his throat dry. He shook his head. I don't understand anything. Everything's been so strange tonight. I just want to go home. She stepped closer, her voice gentle but firm. I know, Max, I know you're confused, but you need to hear this. There's something you don't know, something that's been hidden from you for a long time. Max felt a cold chill run down his spine. What are you talking about? Elaine took a deep breath, her eyes not leaving his. There's a reason Alex isn't here. A reason you were left alone tonight. Max frowned, feeling his heart beat faster. What do you mean? Where's Alex? Elaine's face grew even sadder. She glanced away, her eyes clouded with something like guilt. Alex? He's not coming back tonight. Max felt a pang of fear shoot through him. What do you mean? Where is he? Elaine took another step forward, her hands gently clasped in front of her. Max, please, you need to listen. The things you've always known, they aren't what they seem, Alex. He isn't just my son. He's part of something much bigger. And you're part of it too. Max blinked, trying to make sense of what she was saying. I don't understand. What are you talking about? You're scaring me. Elaine closed her eyes for a brief moment, as though trying to gather her thoughts. Then she looked back at him, her gaze steady and intense. There's magic in this house, Max. Magic that's been passed down through generations. And Alex is the one who's meant to carry it forward. But he can't do it alone. And neither can I. Max stepped back, his mind racing. Magic? He had heard stories, of course. Tales of people with strange powers, ancient secrets, and hidden legacies. But he had never thought any of it could be real. Elaine reached out, her hand hovering just a few inches from his arm, as though she wanted to comfort him but didn't know how. It's not just the house, Max. It's everything. The bloodline, the history, the curse. She paused, her voice breaking slightly. We've been keeping this secret from you for so long, and now it's time for you to understand the truth. Max shook his head, his confusion growing. The truth? What truth? Are you telling me this whole thing, everything is some kind of curse? Elaine nodded slowly. Yes, and you're a part of it too. You always have been. The curse doesn't just affect Alex, it affects you too. Max felt like the ground was slipping out from under him. His heart was racing, and his mind was filled with questions he couldn't answer. But I don't have magic. I'm not like Alex. Elaine's eyes softened. No, Max. You may not have the power, but you have something just as important. You have the ability to break the cycle. You have the power to end it. Max looked at her, trying to make sense of her words. End it? How? What do I have to do? Elaine sighed deeply, a sadness in her expression that made Max feel the weight of her words. I wish I could tell you everything, but it's too dangerous. You need to know that there are forces at work, Max, forces that want to control this magic, and they will do anything to make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. Max stared at her, his pulse quickening. What do you mean? Who would want to control it? Elaine lowered her voice, speaking almost in a whisper. There are people who have been hunting this power for years. They want to use it, to twist it for their own purposes, and they will stop at nothing to get it. That's why Alex is in danger, and that's why I need your help. Max took a step back, his mind spinning. Help? What could I do? Elaine's gaze became even more intense, her voice urgent. You have to stay, Max. You have to protect him. And you have to protect yourself. There are things you don't know yet, but I will teach you. You have to learn before it's too late. Max's stomach turned. He didn't know what to believe anymore. Magic? A curse? A hidden power he didn't even know he had? It all sounded like something out of a dream. Or a nightmare. Elaine seemed to sense his hesitation, and she reached out to him again, this time taking his hand gently in hers. Max, I know this is a lot to understand all at once, but you need to believe me. You're in danger. We all are, and the only way out is to face it together. Max pulled his hand away, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of her words. His mind was racing and his heart was pounding. I don't know if I can do this, Mrs. Simmons. I don't know if I can handle this. Elaine's face softened with understanding. I know you're scared. I was scared too. But this is the only way. If you don't help, if you don't understand, everything you care about will be lost. Max stood there feeling torn. Part of him wanted to run, to get as far away from all this madness as he could. But another part of him, something deep inside, felt the pull of something greater. A sense of duty, of responsibility. He didn't know why, but he felt like this was something he couldn't ignore. Finally, he spoke, his voice shaky but determined. What do I need to do? Elaine gave him a soft, relieved smile. We begin now.